So I'm sharing my screen. I hope you are able to see my screen, which is basically a VS Code window.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, that's great.
How about
Thanks
anybody
for
unable to see the screen? Please raise your voice. Looks like we are good.
Okay, great. So thank you guys for joining on a holiday. It definitely you are really motivated to do this, and I want to share your motivation and help you understand Golang even better. So that's great. Thanks for joining. Um, we will go over what we did yesterday for just a bit, and then we will move on to some newer topics to refresh your memories. So yesterday we went over how we create variables, how we use, how we do your hello world, how we use packages to some extent. We'll go into more details later. How we use scalar data types. We touched a little bit on vector data types. We did some functions, parameters, return values, and all of this. So if you are following the curriculum, we are not going exactly top down, but we are going over parts which you will relate to very easily, as opposed to things you will not relate to easily. So I'm hoping you guys still are related. I mean, still are keeping in track with what's going on. And what I will do is start off with something very simple. So we were doing a hello world, right? We were doing hello world like this, where we had a func main, and we had something like this, right? Where we did hello world, right? This was our program for last day. And I want you guys to do and write the same code that I am writing, because writing always helps. It builds up muscle memory. So it will help you to really understand how Go works, how, if you keep typing func, it kind of gets into your head that a function is actually a func and not void main or def that you might have used in other languages. So yes, please, I'll ask you to type as we go along. And if you remember how to run this program, we used to do go run main.go is the name of the file, and this will run the program. So this is running the program in interpreted mode as opposed to build mode, where you would get an exe file and then you could execute that exe file, right? I hope you remember all of that. Did any one of you face problems while building a exe file on your local? Did you get any runtime error or some other error, something that was not shown, or did you not see here?
I got
Or
it, Rahul. This is Nagesh.
yeah,
I'm not sure if I'm not the intended participant here to learn, but
uh-huh, uh-huh,
still, if it is, I don't want to waste others' time also. If
uh-huh.
everybody is good, I think we can go ahead.
Okay, that is great.
Uh,
Um,
I'll share my
okay,
screen, like how I face it if somebody is not able to do that. Uh,
uh-huh.
I'm sharing my screen. Is that visible to you?
Now it is, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my VS code, and
Uh-huh,
I have this main.go in the solution,
uh-huh,
source control in the Explorer. I have created
uh-huh,
this. The package is main,
uh-huh,
and I type in go, it doesn't come. I did this,
uh-huh.
doesn't go. But when I go into the command prompt directly, and then I type go, I do see the different commands that you suggest, which should by default
I
appear.
see,
Yeah,
I
but
see.
for this I need to go
Okay,
to my folder and then possibly
okay,
do this. Go
right.
run main dot go. You know, here it runs fine. But when
Right.
I'm on the terminal inside the VS Code, somehow unable to get it running.
Okay. So did you try like closing this window and opening a new fresh VS Code window?
All right, I can try that.
Yeah, let's try that.
All right, this is good enough. Should I just
Yeah, type in your Go command.
here directly?
Mm-hmm.
Go run main dot go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you click on the plus symbol on the right side of where you see PowerShell?
Yeah, the
Uh-huh.
drop down or directly the plus?
Directly the plus. What does that? Oh, that just opens a PowerShell window. Other, can you type the drop down? Yes. You get a command prompt? Yes, you get a
Yeah,
command prompt, right?
right.
Click on that
Yeah,
and type in Go here. Yeah, it works, right?
yeah. Now this should go right.
Go RUN main.go.
Yeah, this should be running fine, I guess.
I think so. Okay. So this seems to be a problem with your PowerShell.
Yeah,
I think we can still get it working with PowerShell, but I don't want to spend a lot
yeah,
of time in that.
yeah. Command prompt.
Um,
Yeah,
Command prompt should be fine in case some of you are not able to get it to work.
between
Are you able to see my VS Code window?
that's visible now. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, that's great. Okay, so while we are here, we are on this VS Code window. Um, Give me 1 minute.
Rahul,
Yes.
is it possible to maximize your screen? It's in a very small font and
Okay. What about this?
yeah, now this is okay. Yeah,
Is it better?
yeah, this is okay. Yeah,
Better?
thank
Better?
you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Please let me know. Little better more now.
Yeah, it's better
Yeah,
now.
this is so good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday also we were not able to properly see your screen.
Yeah. Please raise these things. It's a little hard for me to understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so now we'll go into a little bit more nuances of the syntaxes. So first of all, let's say, so yes, we did talk about like having standard libraries, right? But what's the utility of standard libraries? Let's try to create a random number generator, yeah? A random number generator. But while we want to create a random number generator, why not use something that's already built, right? So yesterday I had shared with you a link which said that we could use a lot of different libraries as part of standard libraries. So today I'm going to demonstrate one of those uses of that. So in that link, you would have seen that apart from FMT, there are a bunch of other standard libraries as well. So today let's try to use a very easy example is um, a random number from the the default random number generator. So we will be using rand.int n. Let's say this is basically um, 0 to n. So it returns a random number between 0 to n. Okay, so let's say 100. You see, it says it panics. This documentation here, it says it panics. So a panic is what Go calls as an exception. So when your Go panics is when you have an exception that it doesn't know about. Now there are very few examples, not few, there are quite a lot, where you would find that Go has actually panicked because usually compared to like other languages, the Go compiler is very um, what should I say, um, smart to figure out what can be the exceptions, what can be the errors in your program. But sometimes Go is not able to figure out what is the problem. Other languages, they will throw an exception. Usually there will be interrupt, there will be an exception, things like that will happen. Here, Go will panic. You can, exceptions is something which is very similar to panics. I mean, you can call it the same thing as a panic. Yeah. So let's try this out. Yeah. So we are using a different math. We are using a different library, and we are trying to create a random number generator. Yeah. So let's do go run main.go. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so we get a random number. Let's try to run it again. Oh, we get the same random number. Why is that? Because usually Go will use the same seed. Okay, what does a seed mean? Now, so if you work with random numbers, you will know that every language, if you don't give it a seed, will give you the same random numbers twice. But when we do it in the same program and you run random numbers one by one, they will always be different. Let's see how it is different. So we see it's different. To know more about how we can change the random number every time we run it, we have to use something known as a random.seed. How do we use a random.seed? So for that, we will refer to the rand documentation. Let's look at the rand documentation. So I'm going to share with you the same link that I had shared with you yesterday, only this time it will be specific to a function. So this will give you the hang of how you look up the Golang documentation. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. So anything you need to find, you can just go on this website, package.go.dev, and there you can look for any standard library and you can search for it. So here we see that there is a function which takes some sort of a seed, right? So let's try to build a real proper random number generator. Yeah. So what would we do with the proper random number generator? We would try to do rand.seed, right? And we want to seed it with some value. Let's say we want to seed it with 50. Okay. And what happens now? What happens when I run random number with a seed of 50? Let's see. Okay, so the random number has changed. But what if I run it again? Oh, the random number is the same. But let's say if I change the seed, what happens then? Now the random number has again changed. So basically the random number generator depends completely on the seed, on what do I provide it. Now, what's a very good way of getting a random seed? Can any one of you tell me what's a good method to get a seed? Just take a guess. It can be wrong, it's fine.
Is it like rand.seed of rand.int?
Rand.seed of rand of int n. Okay, you are suggesting this. Okay, now what's going to happen here? So initially, you have your rand.int. What does the first call take? The first call will take the initial seed and will always give you 81, right? And then you are always seeding on the same number, which is 81. So in theory, this is also not, this is also not a random number generator. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it will give a different number, but it will give a deterministic number. Let's see if what I'm saying is actually right or wrong. So we got 29 the first time. What do we get the second time? Okay, so we got 29 again. So it's deterministic because there is no variable, right? So what do you think we can use to make this random number generator truly random? Any ideas? You can. Sorry.
Current of milliseconds.
Okay, so I got a chat message from Sakshi Agarwal using time because it's ever changing. So that's great. And I didn't catch you. I mean, who was it who was speaking? What were you saying?
Yeah, milliseconds to the milliseconds. This is the same
Time.
solution. Yeah.
The same suggestion. Yes. So I think you both are on the same track. You both mean to use the current time because the time is changing. And like you suggested, we could use the milliseconds in that time because it's a deterministic value because you will always get like a 3-digit number or something, right? So we know that we are dealing with something which is like constant, but then again, that means that you will always rotate back to the same number. So time is actually a better solution, honestly. Using time because it will never be the same 2 times in a row, right? So how do we use time? Okay, how do we use time? Let's go back to the same documentation, and can you tell me what package do I find time in? Is there a time package in the Go documentation? Are you able to find it? If you are able to find it, please share the link. In the same documentation, go to the same documentation and find out how we can use time. You do have the link, right? It's ekg.go.dev. Nobody? This should be easy. You should be able to find out the package time. All you have to do, go to the top search bar and type time. Are you able to type time out of there, over there?
Yeah, it has something called as TZ data in it.
Yes, that's the one. So I got a chat message from Chandrasekhar Santo. Then I get triple dots here. I don't see the full name. I'm guessing it's Santosh or something, but thank you. So that's the correct package. So whoever is on that, you would have seen that there is a package known as time. And I've just put that in my code. Now, what do we do with this time package? Yeah, what do we do with this? There are a lot of different things we could use. Let's try to stick with something known as Epoch. Are you aware of what the Epoch is?
Yes.
Yes, so Epoch is basically the number of seconds that have elapsed since a constant date in history. I think it's taken as 1st January 1970, right? I don't know why, but yeah, that is how it is. Please don't ask me why, because yeah, I don't know. Now, how do you figure out the number of seconds since time? Or maybe there is something better we can do. Maybe we can just get the current time and add all the digits together. Or maybe we just use a very simple solution for now. Maybe we just use milliseconds, right? Let's go with something very simple, right? Let's go with the milliseconds solution that was suggested sometimes back. So what function can we use to get the current times milliseconds? It should be there on the same document page. Are you able to find it?
Unix milliseconds.
Unix milliseconds, there is one. Okay, Unix milliseconds is actually different. So, okay, I'm gonna save you the time. I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's actually time.now. I hope you're able to find that function somewhere there. Now,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there, right? Yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
So
it's there.
this will give the current local time. And what do we want from the local time? We want the, I think we want the milliseconds, right? Where do we get the milliseconds? We have the nanosecond here. Let's try this. Let's try to print and see what do we get here. Yeah? Nanosecond, what did this give us? Nano is even further. Nano is I think 10 to the power minus 9. Okay, look at that. That's a very good number, I think. We can use that as a seed. Yes. So let's try to use this as the seed. What we will do here, we will put this here. And what is this? Is int. Okay. So another thing, typecasting. If you've noticed, the last time, what was the last code that I had here? rand.int. This was typecasted by int64. So in languages like C++ or Java, you might have encountered this, right? Where you want to put in, you want to put in different variable types to each other, and it will do things like implicit typecasting. Implicit typecasting is not available in Go. You cannot. So implicit typecasting means, say you try to assign a float to an integer, and your language will automatically convert it based on either the memory location or on the size of the variables that you want to assign to each other, right? Golang will not do that ever. Golang will require you to actually say that I want to do this. So when I actually write code like this, which says int64, which is like behaving like a function, as you can see here, int64 of rand.int, you see this part here, int64 seed, yes, this basically is a 64-bit seed number that we have created. So we have here your normal seed. Normal seed is, you're using, oh sorry, we were using this. Okay, actually let's use what we were using earlier. We were using this. Yes, we were using this as the normal seed. So this is what is happening. I have broken down the function into like 3 lines so that it's easier to understand, right? You have your normal seed, you have your int64 seed, and then you're passing that to the function. Okay, so now let's do it with nanoseconds. As you see that implicit typecasting is not available, which is why you have to do a manual explicit typecasting, right? Okay, is there a question on that? Is there something that isn't clear on that part? Okay, so let's move on. So let's use this new function as our new normal seed. Now what happens when we do this? Now I think this nanosecond will change each time, right? Every time. It will never repeat ever, right? So let's try this out. What happens now? Let's see what happens. So we get a random number of 52. What happens when we run this again? We get another random number of 87. So our random number generator is working, right? Every time we run our random number generator, we will get a different number. Why? It's because of this dependent function on the current time, because the current time is changing all the time. So that's great. So we've solved the problem together, and I hope everyone was able to follow, right? We were able to use multiple packages together in one program and make that program run, right? If you are getting any problems, I mean, if there's something that you don't understand here, like what is a random number, what is a seed, no question is stupid. Please ask your question. You can ask it on the chat if you like, if your voice isn't very friendly today. No? Okay, so I think we are all good. That's great. So we are all able to use functions. We were able to use library functions, and we were able to write a random number generator using Go. So that's great. Now let's move on to something else. Let's move on to what shall I say? Let's move on to, we did functions yesterday. Okay, so I think we can now probably move on to the next part, which is vector type of data. Yeah.
Rahul, I have a question in this.
I'm just going through your course contents to see if I've missed anything in the ones that we have covered. Okay. Did we talked a little bit about %v, right? How that's relevant in your printf. If you don't remember, let's refresh that again. So when you use something like a %v, this will automatically infer the type of the data that you're trying to print. Okay, so an example here would be something like this. Okay, so you see I've used 2%v's, and let's see how that gets interpreted. Here we go. So your exclamation mark at the end is interpreted correctly. The integer is also interpreted correctly. So yeah, so it works pretty well, right? So this is one thing that you might want to note.
So V stands for variant type. It could be decimal, it could be integer.
It could be anything, yes. Yeah, you could think of it like that, yes, %v. Okay. All right, now let's move on to more interesting stuff. We have been doing things without using things like loops. So what we will do, we will now delve into it. We will now start using something. We'll start with loops right away. Yeah. So let's comment this part out and let's write a new func main. Comment these out. And in this func main, we will start with a very simple loop. Let's start with a very simple for loop. And you will find this syntax very similar to some other language that you might have used in your school days. Okay. This is your very simple loop. What do we want to do in this loop? Let's try to just print out numbers. Yeah.
Rahul,
So
how did you get? Hello, Rahul.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt here. So how did you get suggestions? I'm doing using Visual Studio Control Space. I'm not getting that suggestions actually.
You're not getting the suggestions. Okay, I probably have something installed. Let me show you what I have installed here. I have this one. Do you have this extension installed? I can share a link to the link. Go for Visual Studio Code. I will share this text with you. Maybe if you look for this text in your Visual Studio Code, okay, it's got formatted as a red color. I send it unformatted, and this is like kind of the default. Yeah, this gives you like the code completion. This is a pretty useful tool. Might use this. Right? Are you able to find this? It should be there, right?
Okay.
I don't see any link that I can share actually. Is there a link I can share? Copy extension ID. I don't know how does that work.
I think they can just search by Go and it will come. No need to have any link. Directly they can search in the VS Code.
Yeah, and just look for the publisher should be the Go team at Google, right?
Yeah.
You get the official one, then it's usually a bit more feature rich because it's Google. That's why. Yes. Yeah. So
Something
we should
right
be
it
able to.
is on the left hand side we have some icons. So from the
Yes, you would
bottom,
find the
from the bottom
extensions,
we
right?
have
Yeah. Extension, Control Shift X, press Control Shift X, you will go directly onto the extension. And I'll post a screenshot of this.
maybe we can click that and we can see what and all extensions are can be installed.
Yes. And yeah. I just sent you from where you can see it, Control Shift X, look at the picture, and that Control Shift X should show you the different extensions that you can install. So install that extension is very handy, very useful to have.
Yeah, now I got it, Rahul. Thanks for that.
That's great. That's great. So any ID you're using, they should have something very similar.
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, this Visual Studio, which I have got earlier, okay, the latest link which you have shared, right? So I have not downloaded from there. So I'm using a Visual Studio for Angular. So I'm using same Angular Visual Studio so far now. So that's I couldn't find the control suggestions which you are able to showing, right, control space, and you are getting the suggestions using a Golang. So I got to know I have to extension. I have to go to that extensions and I click the Golang. So there I go. I got the Go option here. So then I have installed here. Yeah, now I got the extension .go also. Yeah, now it's working. Rahul, you please continue.
Great. I think Rahul, are you still there with us? Rahul, can you hear us? Looks like his audio is snapped. Rahul, are you still with us? Yeah, it was someone telling they were using Go, I mean Visual Studio for Angular, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it by Microsoft Visual Studio itself, or is it some other editor?
No, it's a Visual Studio,
Yeah.
normal Visual Studio only.
Okay, but
So
you
now
had the
I
Angular.
got that.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Now I got it. I just went to that extension option. There
yep,
I have
yep,
searched for a Golang. So then I
right.
got the installation button. I now
Yep.
able to get the suggestions also.
Great, great.
Rahul, you please continue, Rahul.
Yeah, we
Thanks
are.
for helping.
I'm unable to get Rahul back with his voice.
Oh,
I don't have his number, phone number. Um, uh, Let me check with Divya if I can contact him. What's going on?
You can connect with Sudarshan.
Try that option.
Hi, I think I got dropped off for some time.
Yeah, go. Yeah, Rahul. Welcome back.
Okay, sorry about that. I had an internet problem. I'm back on my backup internet. Um, okay, so can we start off from where I left you guys? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. I'm getting some background noise.
Yeah. Those who are
Can
not speaking, we can go on mute. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now it's much better. Okay. So we were going over loops, and we diverted a little by going on some other topics, but now we are back on loops. And as you can see that the extent, the for loop is very similar to what you might have seen in your Java, C, C++. In Java, C, C++, this is how it was, right? You would have brackets. Here, they said, why do you need brackets, right? Let's keep the semantics the same, remove the brackets. So you can see the semantics is exactly the same, exactly how it works. So how it works, how does a for loop work? First, before a for loop will start running, it will initialize, it will run everything before the first semicolon, right? It will initialize all of your variables. Next, it goes inside your loop, it executes everything, all of your statements one by one, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes back and it checks and it does this last statement. So there are three statements, right? I equals to 0, I less than 10, and I plus plus. They're separated by a semicolon, right? They're separated by semicolon. So there is 1, 2, and 3 logical distinctions. So the first distinction is applied before running the for loop, and then when it comes back,
So Raghu, we are not able to see your
yes?
screen. I'm not able to see your
I,
screen. Sorry. Are you
okay.
sharing?
Thank you for checking that. Let me
actually it's visible.
share.
Actually, we can.
I have started sharing it now. Are you able to see my VS Code window on your screens?
Yes.
For visible, yeah. Okay, good enough.
Okay. Okay, thanks for pointing it out. If you ever get that, please let me know. I'll just start and I'll restart my sharing so it's visible everywhere. Probably a glitch with Teams or something.
Still, I'm not able to see your screen.
Maybe you can log off and log in, whoever it is.
Maybe try restarting your Teams or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you little bit zoom this Visual Studio window, Rahul? Yeah.
Sure. Let's try to zoom in a little bit more. Is this a little better?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I'm going to move this at the bottom so it's easier to read. It's all in one screen. This is much easier to read. Yeah. Okay, so as I was going through, like, the semantics of a for loop are exactly the same. You see the semicolon separates the three parts of the for loop. This is the only part which is executed once, the first time you go into the for loop, and then all the statements are executed. Then the last statement is executed every time. So you can say that this statement is actually part of your for loop. You can just replace this by putting it at the end of the for loop. It's the same thing. It will work the same way. And after executing the last thing, it does a conditional check. If the condition is valid, it continues, else it breaks out. It comes here somewhere here. And it will do the same thing again. It will start executing. It won't run the first part ever again. The first part is only run once, and then it keeps executing, and that's the whole thing of a for loop, right? This is the same thing that you have used in any other programming language, right? C++, Java, they all have the same semantics. But where it gets a little weird is when we will see how the for loop can be. It's not actually a bit weird. I mean, you could do this in other languages. Say, for example, you move this out, right? You move this out, it'll work exactly the same way. Let's see so let's see how your default for loop works, because we haven't really run it till now, right? So let's just try to run this for loop. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So that's exactly how a for loop should behave. Oh, it started with 0. I missed that 0 because we initialized it to 0 and it went up till 9. Yeah. Okay. 0 to 9. That's all it got printed. And we can modify this in various ways. We can say that I want to remove this part out. I want to keep it here, right? It will behave exactly the same way. Let's see. Right? Okay, now this is not the weird part, because this you'll find in every other language, right? This you will find everywhere. What's the weird part? The weird part is how your for loop and while loop are the same thing. So what's the syntax of a while loop? The syntax of a while loop is while I less than 10, you will do something, right? Something like this. That is your syntax of your while loop in other languages, right? Here what we do in Go, we say, oh, we don't need the while. Why have a while keyword when you can use the same keyword again? We use the same thing. We just say for I less than 10. So let's modify this, or let's keep this, and let's put fmp.println here. So just to show you in the same screen, I'm going to keep it 1 to 5 because this might go into multiple lines. So let's do 1 to 5 and let's run both of them to see what the difference is between them, because for loops and while loop, they should be different in theory, but here they are the same. Let's see how that works. Okay, why did this not run? Can you tell me why? I made a very stupid mistake. Can someone tell me why the second loop did not run?
You didn't increment.
Semicolon.
That's not, I did not increment. That's a good catch. So I should be doing increment here somewhere. Yes, that's a good catch. What else?
I value might be 5 because we
The
have
value of
used the same.
I is already 6.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have to reinitialize it back to 0, right? That's when it will work. So this is a very common mistake. I make it all the time. So I am guessing you guys probably have made it once in a while, or you haven't because you're good programmers. So that's great. Let's try to run this. Okay, so now we see the desired result. Now we see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one came from the first part. Then we see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one came from the second part. They behave exactly the same. So this is the strange part in the for loop. So your for loop and while loop are exactly the same. So this is something weird in Go, but apart from that, you'll find a lot of more weirdness in Go. Yeah, but once you get used to it, it seems more natural, right? Because actually, why do you want to have a separate keyword? The only reason that I can think of is maybe it makes the code more readable. Like, so if I say while I less than 5, do this, it makes it more natural sounding and more readable. But so is for, right? For I less than 5, because once you know what for loop does, it kind of behaves the same way, right? Okay, so this is one weirdness where the for and the while are exactly the same. Are you guys able to run this on your local machines? Do you face any problems? Anything that seems more strange than what we have already discussed?
Yeah, one behavior I observe is when I'm commenting out code that is not unused, like math.rand, automatically it removes it from the import variables.
Okay, so that's probably your extension, which is probably, what do you mean by that? Oh, when you comment this out, this gets deleted, right?
Right. I mean, if I'm commenting out my main code where I have used rand functionality, even in the imports, it gets automatically removed before I compile it.
Yes, so that's I think your extension doing it. So, oh yeah, see, it got removed. Yes, you're right. It got removed. So your extension is doing that. Now your compiler will not do that, believe me. But your extension is doing that. Why does it do that? Because if you have something which you haven't used, Go will give you an exception. That, so for example, I'm not sure if I can save this. See, can I save it? See, that's the problem with IDs. They think you are dumb. So it just removes it. But if I say, if I were to do it in here, right? Let's say if I close this, yeah. Let me try to replicate the error that Go will give me. Let me try to use VI to edit this main.go. Do I have VI installed? I do have it. Okay, now let's try to do it from here. I could have also done it with something else, like say Notepad or something, but yeah, I mean, anything works. Any editor works. All I want to do is show you the error that Golang will give you when something is Why is my VI so slow? Okay, I think I have deleted it. It's extremely slow. Okay. Okay, now you see I have put in time, but I have not used it anywhere. I have not used it anywhere. If I open it in editor, Golang will, my extension will just get rid of it. If you're on any other editor, I'm guessing your plugin is not doing this. But if I do go run main.go now, it will not give me any cryptic error message. Let's see what it tells us. Look at that. Imported and not used time. In other languages, this is a warning at best. This is not an error, right? But this is an error here, which means your program will not run, your program will not build, nothing will happen. You're stuck. So warnings, warnings are actually treated as errors in Go. So this basically, not all warnings, some of them, but this is just a useful thing to have, because sometimes as developers, we tend to forget that we have imported this. Then when we remove it, when we remove some code, the import language is on, but it's never used. And sometimes you have to do code refactoring to just get rid of those imports, especially in languages like Python or, in fact, in any other language actually. And here, my extension just got rid of it as soon as I clicked on save. Right? As soon as I clicked on save, the extension got rid of it. But okay, so this time the extension did not get rid of it, and I still have this, have the code where I want it to, because I just want to keep it as a reference for going forward what we do. Okay, so are we all able to run for and the while loop at till this point? If you're not, this is the time where you tell me.
Yeah, Rahul, we are able to run that, but can you use some advanced coding stand to write this for loop in a single line? Suppose in a real time in our project implementation, so the iterations will be the huge lines of code.
I'm sorry, you want to run this in a single line?
Yeah, say like in a Java, having a Lambda expressions to overcome to improve the performance of.
Yes, I see. Okay, so Lambda expressions. There is there is a construct very similar to Lambda expressions in Golang. We'll come to it later, not right now. We will. So, like you have used Lambda expressions in Java, there is one thing which is very similar. You can call it the same thing in Go. We will touch that later, much later, not right now. Yeah. For now, we will just we will focus on the basics. Yeah.
Sure. And one more thing is that I observed one thing. So FMT is the package. So in that we are calling the method as a println. So in that the method first letter is then a caps. So
yes,
in other languages like in a Java, so class name should be the caps and the method name should be the small letter. So the camel cases.
Right.
So is
that's
there
a very good catch. That's a very good catch. I think
there any
that
background for the any other
yes. So yes, so you could have used small letters as well, but I think the recommendation is when you write a function name, when anything which is kind of like exported from a package, we will read more about this. We will do more about packages later on. Packages, when you're exporting a function, usually you will find all of them with a capital letter as starting, right? All functions which are exported, right? You can think of it like a public versus private distinction, that this is a public function. So public functions should be starting with the uppercase. It's more of a convention, right? There is no hard and fast rule to it, right? There is no hard and fast rule to it. It's more of a convention.
So that means so in the main code.go, so there is a method called the main, right?
Right.
So there is another package. Suppose the test.go. So I'm put at the main.go in the test.go. I'm trying to access the main method in the test.go, but it is not allowed to me to the access because it is a small case. I can assume like it is in a private method.
Oh, are you saying that you have another method which is like
Yeah.
capital
No, no, no,
MAIN?
no, 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 no. Just a
No?
quick. No. Just.
Oh, same name, same name.
No. Just rename that main as an add method. Uh, like we are going.
Okay,
So
okay,
can you
this one.
please? No, no. Can you please create one function with add?
Add, okay.
So I want to use this add method in another package. So
Uh-huh.
I imported this main package in the other class. Suppose other package. So I have a test.go as a I have a test.go class is there. So in that class I imported this main.go. I'm trying to
Okay,
access with the class name. I'm trying to access this add method in my test.go class.
okay.
So in that case, so if it is a caps, then only I can assume that this is a public method. So then only I can add to access.
Like I said, it's a convention. It's not enforced. It's a convention. So there's a difference between a convention and enforced.
Okay.
When I say enforced, if you try to do it, you will get an error. When I say convention, is when you try to do it, you will not get any error. It will still work,
Okay. So
right?
that
You
means
won't get any error. It's, yeah.
yeah. That means so the lowercase methods also can able to access from the other
So
package.
like I said, the case doesn't really matter. Okay. When we will be working on packages, we will learn more about how to export and import and all of that. That's not in scope right now. We will
Okay.
look about it later. But this is more of a convention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. So yes, so you may or may not want to follow this convention, but I will recommend you to follow because there's actually a very good documentation about conventions in Go. Um, I have to find it actually. Maybe I'll find it after the today's session,
Yep.
which talks about the conventions that are used, the philosophy of Go. If you've already found it, you can share it in the chat here, so that everyone else can read it. And it's a very good regarding understanding, right, why Go was built with the conventions that it is using. Yeah. Um, so yes, so that's one thing. I mean, like people say, like if you are on Python, you have to follow the PEP guidelines, right? You've probably heard of the PEP 8, PEP 9, and all of that. If any one of you has worked in Python, right?
Yes.
Which basically says that this is a Pythonic way of doing things, and you could do things the other way also. It is not enforced by the language, but it's not Pythonic, right? Or it's not very Java-like to, I mean, well, Java is very enforcing. It'll enforce everything, but Go is even more enforcing. You will find that out later. That Go will enforce a lot of different things, and it does have conventions. Sadly, it does have it, but you don't really have to follow. But I would suggest you do follow because it just helps. If you use more and more open source libraries, third-party libraries, you will find that all of the third-party libraries, they all follow a certain convention. So it's always good to follow a convention so that it's easy to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and Rahul,
Yes.
we might visit the Lambda expression kind of implementation a bit later. How
Yes.
about for each? For example, if I have an array, usually I may
Uh-huh.
not go for I to array dot size or something like that, but I say for each element in that particular collection, right? I might loop through and execute something. So for
Okay.
each kind of
For
for loop
each.
mention. Yeah.
So basically you're talking about, let's say you have an array, right? You're talking about ARR. Let's talk about num7. Yeah. So you want to go through, let's say, something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 5. So in some other languages, you might have seen that for nums, ARR, in nums, oh, sorry, for num in nums ARR,
Right.
you could follow the syntax. Unfortunately, this is not supported. How you would do this is you would have to use a very similar syntax, right? This syntax doesn't really work. You would have to use something like, I don't know, for I equals to 0, and then I less than length of num_sar, and then you do at the end I plus plus.
Yeah.
And here you do fmt.ln num r I. So yeah, you won't. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's not a syntax which is supported by Go at the moment.
Okay.
They probably have a good argument for it, because the Go guys are very vocal about stuff. I mean, if especially developer concerns, this is a very valid developer concern. That is, why didn't you just put in a for this and that? Right? That seems like a simple enough thing to do, but they kind of disagreed. I think they disagreed, and they probably have a good reason for that. Right? I don't know the reason. We could find the reason though. A little bit of Google will help. Okay, so at this point, we are pretty much done with our for loops, and you can also say while loops. Okay, quick question. How do you think we could use the syntaxes that we used right now to do an infinite loop? Any guesses? You can type your code in the chat. Let's say I want to do an infinite loop. It's a very common use case. Say, for example, you want to run an HTTP server, right? You want to keep listening on a port. And for that, you want to run a server that runs forever, right? An infinite loop. Okay, so I've got two responses. One of the responses, I see that you use something like this. Okay, that seems very logical. Yep, that seems very logical actually. This one, right? Because you just omit 1, 2, 3, the third arguments, and that's it. But let's just confirm if this is actually an infinite loop or not. Yeah, let's confirm if this is an infinite loop. So how will I confirm? Okay, so I commented out everything. I only have this, and I'm going to put in a print statement at the end. Okay, I'm going to put a print statement at the beginning, start. That's all. I'm not going to put anything inside the infinite loop, because it will just, oh look, the Go compiler has already told me something. Wait, but is this the Go compiler then? I think this is the extension. Let's try this out. I should get a start. Okay, so it's not the Go compiler, it was the extension. The extension was telling me this is unreachable code, but the Go compiler doesn't know it yet. So you can say the Go compiler allowed the developer to do a dumb thing, but maybe it's not a dumb thing. Maybe it's what the developer wants to do. Infinite loop. So yes, it seems like infinite loop, right? It works. You have a start. It does not stop. There is no end. And you see what happened, right? The 2 semicolons were removed. The 2 semicolons were removed, and it's the same as this. So having 2 semicolons and not having them is the same thing, right? It just this is your infinite loop. So great. So we were able to solve the infinite loop use case. I came out of the infinite loop by pressing Control C. On Windows, you will have to press Control Z. Okay, that's a Control and Z. Okay. If you are stuck on the infinite loop, you have to press a control and Z. Are you all able to reproduce the infinite loop scenario? I hope yes. Let me know if not, if something didn't work, if your compiler failed, or if you get the end output somewhere. Are you getting the end output? You shouldn't be getting the end output. Okay, great. I got another response. I'm not sure what that is. 1 equal to 0. What is this? This is probably, it seems a little bit like SQL or some language I've not really seen.
Yeah, just in the exit condition, you might put one is not equal to 0.
1 is not equal to 0. So, I mean, something like this, right? 1 is not, true not equal to false, something like that. Yes, yes, yes. Even that could work. Like you have an exit condition. Let's say you put the normal things, I less so here you just say 1 not equal to 0. So this will never end, right? Let's test this also. Do I want to put a print state? I don't want to put a print state because it will, this is also infinite loop, right? This is also infinite loop. So let's run this. We should get a start and it will never end. If I had put in a print there, it would have kept printing and spamming my terminal actually. So I didn't do that. Does it stop? It does not stop. It does not stop for me. Yeah, so this is also a very valid infinite loop. So we got 2 solutions for the same problem. That's awesome. Yep, it does not stop. It does not end. Confirm this is infinite loop. So yeah, if you are stuck on infinite loop, you press Control and Z on Windows, Control C if not on Windows. Okay. I hope everyone was able to follow till here because we will be using for loops pretty extensively. It's one of the most used control structures, apart from if maybe. Yeah. So for loops, if you have any questions, now is the time to talk about it. Cool. So I'm just going to create little function infinite loop, and I'm going to leave them in the code so that it's not lost. This is one example. Okay. We also have another example. I will name it infinite loop 1. The first example was this. This was the second. In this case, the extension is not able to figure out. It's not able to figure out that this is unreachable code. But in this case, line number 12, the extension is able to figure out. So yeah. Okay, this was your for loops. Put it in here. Yes, we did. And this was your random number generator. And my extension has already imported it for me. So that's good. So I'm going to keep everything in one file. Let me move this on top so it's easier to read. Maybe I should put it at the bottom. Put it at the bottom. Okay. So we've covered for loops. The next thing in control structures will be your if conditions. Now ifs, and I think everyone is pretty familiar with ifs, right? So if let's say a equals to 10, b equals to 11, if A not equals to B, fmt.println does not equal, and let's try to run this. What happens? Okay, so we get the print. It says if not equal to this. Else is again, you can say that this is like copied from C++, this syntax, because it does feel like it is copied. Dot println equal, let me see, change it to 10. Equal. Okay. So yeah, I mean, extremely simple to use, and yeah, I mean, extremely simple to use. If and else. Are you guys able to run this in your compilers? If and else statements? For I less than 5, fmt.println, what is that supposed to be? Control C work for me instead of Control C. Great. Okay. That's another for loop, which I see. Is there a question, Parveez Muhammad? I see some code, but I don't understand what you mean by that. Was it just
No,
like,
actually,
yeah?
no, that's what we have discussed about that infinite loop, right? This is also one way to
Oh,
do that
yes.
infinite.
Yes, you're right. Yes,
So
you're right.
we can
Actually, you're right.
remove that increment. So just typing the
Yeah, correct. So basically not having the increment itself. Yes, that's right. I mean, it's similar to this, but in this case, I think you fool the compiler, right? You're trying to fool the this thing. You're trying to fool the extension. So in this case, the extension doesn't even know. You fooled the extension. But in this case, when you don't put in anything, extension is not fooled. Extension is smart.
Yeah.
But to fool the extension, you can use this thing. But I would prefer this syntax though, because you're not wasting a variable. But that's a very good catch though, Parveez, that you can fool the extension. Okay. All right. So Control C work, Control C. That's great. Okay. So now we are on the if loops. Yes. I think someone wants to say something. Okay. Now let's go into something else. Let's say we have probably if A equals to 1. We probably also use else ifs, right? If A equals to A greater than 1. Now let's do if A equals to 5. Let's say. Let's do 3. Let's do 3. A is 1. Okay. A is 2. A is neither 1 or 2. Okay. This is your syntax of the else if. You've probably encountered else if elsewhere also, right? In this case, we get this. Put 1. You get this. If you put 2. This.
And Rahul, it's the usual break continue statements inside for loops, right?
Okay, so let's say you want to break from a for loop. Okay, so that's something I did not cover actually. So let's look at the break statements. Let's before we move on to this, I'll comment this part out. Okay. For what is the follow we reduced? Let us use this one. So let's use this one. And use I equals to 0. Let's say if. Okay, we can actually combine the for and the if together to build up a break, right? So if I were to do that, let's say if I equals to 3 is when I want to break. Oh, sorry, I kind of sometimes mix up Python. Okay. Okay, if I equals to 3, this is the correct syntax, right? I've not made any syntax mistakes. So this should do what? This should print 0, 1, 2, 3, right? I think, and then it will not print 4. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so another interesting thing. Let's say you try to use this loop variable outside the loop. Should it work? I mean, now you probably know the answer because it is shown in red. But yeah, it probably also doesn't work in maybe other languages like maybe Java. But in Python, it works. In Python, it works. In C++, it does not work. But in Golang, again, it does not work. So you can't use a variable which is defined in the for loop for the first time outside of the for loop without creating another variable. So if you create another variable here, then it will work. That's fine. Right? That's fine. Then it will just, this is a different instance of I. Okay. Okay, so it just printed this and it also printed the 5 at the end. Okay, so this is one.
Rahul,
Yes.
can we assign the variables in the same line, the separation of comma? Will it accept Go language?
Yeah, definitely. So let's say you want to try something like j equals to 0, something like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not inside
What
of for
is
loop. I'm talking about outside of for loop. Just you declared in the 55 line a colon something value, right? So in the similar way, can we declare the variables in a single line with a multiple variable declaration with a comma separation? Will it acceptable?
It can, you can do something like this, I think. Int, and then you can do something like this. Wait, I have to look up the syntax actually.
Okay.
There, it is possible to declare it multiple in the same statement. It is definitely possible. Is this not the right syntax? This seems to be the right syntax. Let's try it out. Yeah, I think this is the right syntax because it's not giving me an error. So let's try it out. Okay, so maybe I did not cover this. So what happened here is that I declared 2 integers in the same line. Yeah, I declared 2 integers in the same line, and these 2 integers got their values from these 2 values. Yeah, I can do something similar here also. If I say for a is float, b is int, 1.1, 2. Okay. Okay, so same line. This one doesn't work. Okay, this I was not correct. This does work. Same line, same value will work. Yeah, same line,
Okay.
different types does not work. Yeah.
Same data type will work. Okay.
Yes, same line, different type. Yeah. I mean, all of these small caveats, as in, however you keep using the language, you will get to know these small caveats. I mean, there'll be a lot of little nitpicks, which even I probably don't even remember. They're from a long time back. So, but yes, there are a lot of small details that you would get to know more and more as you start using the language more and more in your daily lives, and hopefully you will you will learn to be you will get a lot of more skill than probably I don't have, or somebody else who's much better at Golang than you right now, they don't have. So yeah, so it's a continuous learning process. You will slowly get to the hang of it. So this is another one way of declaring variables in the same line. And this is example which we came up after a good question was raised, where we could use a break along with breaks and continues. They work the same way. Here we have demonstrated a use of a break. Yes, we can also do a continue. Yes, we can do a continue. Say if I equals to 2, then we can say continue. Yes. Oh, I still somehow Python doesn't get out of my head. Okay, cool. So if I equals to 2, we have continue. What does this do? This should, so if I equals to 0, this will get printed. If I equals to 1, this will get printed. If I equals to 2, this will not get printed, right? If I equals to 3, it will be printed, but it will be break, right? So what is the output we are expecting? We're expecting 0, 1, 3. 0, 1, and 3. Let's see if we get the same output or if I'm wrong. Takes a little time. Yeah, there we go. So we got this one. So yes, thank you for raising this question. It's good. Maybe sometimes I miss some things, and it's great to have questions, and we can go back on understanding the code a bit better than we did initially. So that's great. So this part of the code is just if loop, if control structure, and I'm going to move it up here. Func example if, and I'm going to do something like this. Example if. Okay, so this was an example if. Oh, while I was on if, there's something that I wanted to talk about was, so you remember that I told you that fmp.println, if I do this here with I, this will not work. Well, there is something similar you can do with if statement. If else you can do something similar. So let's put this outside. Func for example, what was this example? Break example. Break example. Yes, so we did this break example. Let's look at this one now. This is, yeah, this I haven't seen in any language, honestly. This I haven't. This is a very I wouldn't say new concept. You could do it in other languages, but I haven't seen it very widely used. So this is a condition. Let's say if you can declare a variable in the same if statement. If a equals to, let's say, what do we do? 10 is we mark it. A is equal to 10. fmp.println a equals, let's do this, b equal to 10, b equals b. Equals 10, a equals b equals 10. We can say this. Right? What happens when we run this? A equals B equals 10. So what happened here? So we declared a variable normally, right? This is how we declare a variable normally, implicit style. What did we do here? If is supposed to do only equals check or less than check or something check, which eventually evaluates into a bool. But what happened here was we created another variable, and we created this variable and we made a check on that variable. So you can say that we are executing two things in a if. So in a for, we saw there are three parts in a for loop, right? There are three parts. We can reduce it to a single part in a for loop. And look at the similarity here. The similarity here is that if can be used with two parts, but we can also use it with a single part. Now you have similar semantics. That is, you cannot use the variable which is just defined in this loop as part of a loop outside. Right? You get undefined A. But you can use B. Yes, you can use B. And you can also use A here. You can say A equals A inside, but you can't use it outside. See that? You can also use it inside the else or an else if, actually. Let's try to do that. Equals to say 11. And you get A equals to 11 because A equals to 10 because A equals to 10. Right? Is this? I hope this isn't confusing. I mean, it looks confusing at first. Honestly, it looks a little confusing. That why will a if have multiple statements? But you know, the creators of Go decided that. Okay, I see an example here of a fmt.println. What is that supposed to be? You are. Oh, okay. So you are creating two instances. So basically, what you've done here is you've created two instances of I, and that is why it works. Right? Like I said. So this I is outside the scope of this I. In this loop, you will expect to be printed 0 to 5. And over here, you would expect to be printed the value of I outside, right? There should be no overlap. Outside, so this is basically scopes. Scopes of variables are defined within braces. So this is basically one scope, right? Anything within brackets is a scope. This is a scope. fmt.println text, or let's say I. What gets printed here? What do you think gets printed here? Any guesses? So this is one scope with a for loop. This is an empty scope. It doesn't have anything. Let's try this. Okay, what happened? This is confusing, right? There were two 10s printed. Let's do something else. Let's do inside another scope. Okay, so inside another scope, we printed 10. So we basically used something which was outside of this scope. But what happens when you have another variable within the scope? Let's say 100. What happens now? What's your guess? 100, right? So
100.
yes, so this creates a different scope, and within scopes, variables are separated into different scope variables, right? So anything inside the scope is separate from the rest, and anything that you do inside the scope is not visible outside. It's like, you've probably heard that term, right? Anything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So that's exactly what a scope is. Anything you do within the scope only happens within a scope. So this is a scope, right? This is a for scope. There was an if scope here, which I had shown you some time back. Anything which is a scope, you can put stuff inside of your scope, like you're like independent. You're like independent person, but you're actually not. You are in the same file though. But yes, it kind of behaves like a independent personality.
Yeah, as long as there is a local variable, it will try to use that. If that is not present, it
Exactly.
will use the global variable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is how your scopes will work. And is there any question around this? Anything that you did not understand?
One query
Yeah.
I had, why I posted that is, in C, we use something called as extern. So to override behavior, that instead of using local variable, I want to use the global variable. So I use something called as
Right.
extern keyword. Is
Yeah.
there any equivalent in Golang?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Extern. So the reason why we used externs was in C was because it's required. Because how do you use a variable in a different module? But in Go, to use in a something in a different module, we just import it, right? For example, I think there is something as we can use what math.py. Yes, we can use. There is phi also. Okay, let's use phi. And for this, I need to do an import, right? It's probably imported it already on my behalf. Let's see. Yeah, it's imported math. So import math, and I am doing math.py. This is kind of like an external variable, right? Because it's external to this module, but it's present in another module. Okay, so this one is automatically read because I did not use it. I'm just going to comment this part out. Let's comment this part out. We'll deal with this later. So this is basically the only piece of code I have. This is the only piece of code I have. And I have just got an import math. That's all. That's all we need for this example. What happens now? Let's see. Yeah, so we get the value of pi. In C, what we would have done is we would have done like extern int pi, or I don't know, there is some syntax, right? And we get the value of a certain item or a certain variable based on what is set on a different module. That was the analogy in C and in C++. And in C++, you didn't require it so much because tried to be object oriented. It is object oriented, but because languages like Go, they are not really object oriented, but try to be. You need things like this. You need things which behave like an external variable. So this behaves like an external variable, but is actually being imported from a module as a variable, as you would do in Python actually. This is very Pythonic, right? You would import a variable from a different Python module, and you would use that in your fmt.println or anywhere in your code. This is just an example. Yeah. So, okay, so let me organize the code again by putting it here. If example, put it here. This was an if example. Right? This was an if example. Yes.
Rahul, what is the shortcut
Yes.
key to comment and uncomment the whole code?
Yes, right. So what I was doing for VS Code, I was just pressing control and this one question mark, control and slash. It's the key to the left of your shift key. Control and slash question mark key. You press that, you will get commented and commented. You get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's control plus this character or this character, whichever one you want. This is your scopes. Let's talk about. Let's put the scopes here. This was a little bit about external variables. Okay. Are we clear till here? Any questions? Anything that you're stuck at? You could be still stuck at for, by the way. It's completely fine. If you're stuck somewhere, just let me know. Maybe you're just thinking it over. Maybe you didn't follow. I can just quickly refresh your memories. Go over what we did next after for. Yeah.
Do we have operators here, or are we going to cover upcoming topics? And operator or
all of that. Yeah, we'll come to that in a bit. I just want to know if everyone is clear till this point. Okay. I mean, it's fine. You can talk about anything that you have, any question till this point. No? Okay, cool. So all right, let's go to yes. So your question was, do we have any operators or not? So all of these things are actually operators. I less than 5, I plus plus, I equals to, but I think what you're referring to is the binary operations or logical operations, right? I think that is what you're referring to. So let's do an example of that. Put this in external. Yes, so let's say I want to see if I don't know if a point if a point is origin or not. So let's say if I say x equals to 0 and y equals to 0, I will say that this is origin. Okay? So I have to define x equal to 0. Oops, sorry, x equal to 0. 0. Oops. And let's see how this works. I mean, if you've used it in any other language like C++, I think even Java has it, then it's exactly the same. It's copied. You can say it is copied, right? It is exactly the same. Let's do OR. Yeah, let's do another with OR. X equal to 0 or y equals to 0. You can say one of them is 0. Just make this as 1. One of them is 0. Let's do the reverse. Let's do, you can see that this is a reverse. One of them, you can say neither of them is 0. When we compute this, let's try this. Okay, so this one is your basic logical operators, right? And you also have the same bitwise operators that you expect in C++. So let's say you have x, sorry, not x. So this was, I hope you guys followed this point, the logical operators. they're very simple. It's like in Python, the same thing would be if x is 0 and y is 0. I mean, you can say equal to 0. Yeah. In Python, or is, I mean, anything. This is the same syntax in Python. There is like no difference. I mean, in Python, you would do like this, print, yeah, and you see the difference. There is virtually no difference. The only thing they have done is not have the colon at the end. And, yeah. And in C++, it's again very same. It would have been like this. In Java, it would have been, they just removed the brackets. That's the syntactic innovation that they have done. Not a big innovation, but yeah, nevertheless, that works. And then you would have your bitwise operators, which also behave the same way as you would expect in C++ and C. I think this is the OR operator. What happened here? Undeclared name. Oh, this is X. Okay, this is X. You would also have this. You would also have this. Right, same thing. And it's standard stuff. You would also have this. Wait, is this not there? Should be there. Let's try it out. I thought once component was there. Okay, I was wrong, I guess. Or maybe I got the syntax wrong. Okay, I'll probably look it up and tell you guys later. In C++, there used to be a once complement. Okay, so you see, so what happened here? X or Y did a bitwise OR of the bits. What are the bits? The bits are this. X is 2, sorry. X is 2 and Y is 1. These are the last 4 LSB, the least significant bits. And OR will give us a 3. AND will give us a 0. A XOR basically tells us which of them are different, gives us again a 3. Right? It's exactly the same way how your the different operators work. You also have your left shift, your right shift. Okay, let's just see if they work the same. I think they work the same way as in C. In C, you have right shift, you have your left shift. What else? I just can't remember other things. If you remember something, just let me know. Okay, X right shifted to 1 gives you 1, left shifted to 1 gives you 4. Yeah, so makes sense. Any questions with respect to the operators, or all of this is completely taken from C. So you can expect anything that you've seen with. Okay, I see that there are 2 questions that I have not seen. Vaishali, can we initialize multiple variables here as we have in Java? For int I equals to 0, int j equals to 10. Okay, yes, I think there is something very similar that you can do in Golang, that you can initialize multiple variables in. Oh wait, are you talking about multiple variables in a for loops?
Yeah, hi Rahul.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, my question is inside for, like, can be initialized.
Got it. I got it. I think yes. Let's try it out. Let's try it out. I might have, got the syntax wrong, but let's see. Let's try to let me try to remember the syntax while I do it. I less than 5 and G, or I can do I less than 5 and J less than 5. Yes. Then in the end, I++ and J++. I think this is the syntax. Yes. And then here, wait, do they not allow a comma? I think it does allow a comma. For some reason, it's not. fmt.println. I will get I, comma J. Seriously, is comma not allowed? I think it is allowed.
I guess iteration it can only take one.
Okay, I think you're right. Maybe I will do it like this. Yeah, I think this is the Golang way of doing it. Yes, this is the Golang way of doing it. Let me just increase the size a little bit. I think it's going towards the right side. Yeah. Now you can see the full thing in one screen, right? Now this one I have to.
Yeah, maybe you can click
Bring
on
it
the
up. I'll just hide.
source code editor. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it works. Click on this one. Yes. Now it's a little bigger. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So here I have done what? I have done initialized I and j to 0 and 1, and this is basically just checking for that condition. So what will this loop do? In theory, what it should do is, let's initialize both them to the same variable, right? Because then it will stop at the same time. So it will go to 0, go to 1, go to 2, it will go to 3, it will go to 4, and then it should end there. So we should be getting 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Yeah, so we got that. Let's try to do something different. Let's try to do 100, and let's try to just remove one of these and see what happens. Plus 15 or something like that. Let's do some weird stuff. What happens now? The exit condition is still 1. There is still one exit condition where we have put in I less than 5. Okay, so we get two different types of variables. And yes, initially I was not using the correct syntax, but it has to be one single statement. I cannot use multiple statements. So if I give a comma, it kind of interprets like it's like multiple statements, but this syntax works. So it's just about figuring out the syntax. Yeah. Yeah. Was there a question? Can we initialize multiple variables?
Yeah, this was the question actually.
Okay.
I got
yes.
it. Yeah. Actually,
okay,
I was making mistake in initializing.
Oh, like this. Oh, okay. So you were trying it like this. Is this?
No, not here. In the third part, I was getting I wasn't getting how to.
I see. How you were. Yes, that's Even I made the same mistake because I started with this, right?
Yes,
I started
like
with this I
only I was
J++.
trying.
Yes, which seems more natural, but then it's not very Golangy. Golangy is this. Golangy tells us that, okay, Golang is a slang. There is no word which is Golangy. But yeah, I'm just saying that like Golang, yeah. So like Golang, it will tell you that left side should equal right side. So on the variables on the left side should equals on the variables on the right side. This is one valid statement. Yes. So which is why we are able to use this as a statement. We are able to use this as a statement as well. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul.
Okay. I guess that was helpful. And there was another question from, your name is getting cut out, Hanumanthya.
Nagesh.
About this. Okay, Nagesh. Nagesh was about the XOR operator. We actually did cover the XOR operator, exclusive OR. We covered it here. This is the XOR operator. And let's just see how that works. Yes, let's just see how that works. If you remember what a XOR gate does, let me try to remember. It's been a long time since I've done XOR gates. So XOR gates work like this. If your input A and you need two inputs to a XOR gate.
Yeah, got it.
if your
I
input
was
is
just
yeah.
looking for that caret.
Yes,
Caret.
yes, the caret symbol, yeah. So this is exactly, so only if it is different will your output be equals to 1. Otherwise, it will be equals to 0. It basically differentiates between the bits. So the caret is in other languages is also used as a raised to the power of b, right? You might think that this is x to the power of y. That is a very valid thing, but there is a different function for that to do x to the power of y. Println, there is math dot, it is pow, yes, math dot pow x comma y. Oh, what happened here? Y, yes, but it uses float, right? So what we have to do, we have to convert this to a float. Can't use this float. Really? Okay, let's see. Oh, it gave me error. Cannot use float as float 64. Okay, that's the problem, right? I should have used float 64 instead. Let's try it now. There you go. So this is why, you know, Golang errors are so intuitive. You don't need to, you know, look up the documentation for most cases, because the errors itself are so English language like that. It doesn't get easier than this, right? It's very easy to figure out what's going on with your code. Why is it not working as you intended to work? Yeah. So let's move this into your for loop example. There was a for loop example, I think, here. I'm going to put this code that we did later with multiple initialization in the for loops function. And what was this about? This was about operators, right? This was about operators. Let's move this into operators. Operators. Let me move this into operators function. Cool. So we have hit the halftime mark as of now. Do you guys want a 5-minute break?